what's happening, all you dudes and dudettes? This is Dudes Talking Freedom back at you once again. This is Luke.
And this is Jeremy.
And we want to thank you for joining us on the Dudes Talking Freedom podcast. We're brought to you by Warriors for Freedom, a nonprofit that creates pathways to engage service members to help veterans and their families prevent suicide, foster camaraderie, and help them live their best lives. Check them out at warriorsforfreedom.org. All right, folks, we have Dr. Chase Faldmo, a local chiropractor who is a specialist in toxins and nerves. And we'll be talking health, freedom, and whatever else we want to talk about. So let's get into it, shall we?
Absolutely.
We shall. Let's go.
Welcome.
Thanks
to
for
the
having
studio.
me.
Good doctor? Doctor? No, just one doctor here, not all doctors. Doctor? No. One doctor.
Go for it.
Doctor?
I paid a price for it. Heavy price, though.
You did. I'm sure you did. What college you go to, Doc?
So undergrad, I went to BYU and University of Utah, and then I did my doctorate at Parker University.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Down here in Dallas.
Nice.
Awesome. And you're from the area?
Born and raised, except I've lived in other states, moved every year of high school. So,
Okay.
But this is home. It's my home, Texas.
Well, then welcome back. And
Good to be back.
welcome to the area.
Oh, yeah.
Great to have you on the show. So you have a website, healingplaybook.com.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your kind of journey to what we're here to talk about tonight?
Absolutely. So I grew up very healthy, sports guy, played football, basketball, and healthy as could be. My coaches would even tell me, if you want to play Division I, basketball, football, wherever you want, you could probably do it.
Wow.
So I was healthy, and then I developed this thing called a hydrocele. So if you probably don't know what a hydrocele is, I'm an open book. I'll just be up with it.
Sounds like a water seal.
Yeah. That's a funny choice of words there. You say that. So what a hydrocele is, it is a testy full of fluid.
Oh.
So, yeah, when you say that.
Sounds painful.
Yes, it got up to 2 cups worth.
Oh.
So by that,
your scrotum was 2 cups size?
2 cups full of water.
Wow.
And so, when you're in high school, you get a lot of jokes. You might be the popular guy because, you're walking around like that. But health-wise, it's not a good idea.
So were you willing to do about anything because you had such big, balls?
Of course. No fear, right?
Right. It's got a huge, sack. Got a lot of sack.
If your friend jumps off a bridge, doesn't mean you should.
That's right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have jumped off the bridge with that thing.
Wow, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, so it got so big, it got to the point where it's like, okay, I got to have surgery on this thing. This is getting too big. So it's a routine procedure, nothing crazy. But after my surgery, I was given painkillers, anti-inflammatories, and that burned large ulcers in my stomach.
Okay.
So to try to correct that, they gave me more meds. And to make a long story short, I lost 50 pounds. I would eat my food. I wouldn't be able to digest it. Basically sit and it'd ferment in my system.
Yeah.
And I got so sick, couldn't eat anything, lost 50 pounds, organs started having problems. And at that point, they're like, what in the world do we do? Why is this going on? So went to all the best doctors across the country on paper. None of them could help me. Even called the Mayo Clinic, and they're like, yeah, you've been to the doctors that trained us. Good luck. So I was near the end. And when I was near the end, I heard about someone named Dr. Jerry Tennant. And he's an amazing expert. He looks at the physics of the body. So a couple days before I saw Dr. Tennant, my heart rate was only 36 beats a minute.
Whoa.
Which is really, really low. It should be
low.
about 60. And then when I saw him, my blood pressure was about 80/40. So he looks at the physics of the body, and he found that it's actually voltage that controls everything. So voltage is the measurement of electrons. If I was to measure the voltage of my thumb right now, it should be about minus 25 millivolts. But if I hit my thumb with a hammer, my thumb would get red and inflamed and swollen. That would jump up to minus 50 millivolts because it's healing. Once it heals, goes back to normal, should be about minus 25 again. Now, if I hit my thumb with that hammer, but I don't have enough voltage, what happens is if I have any voltage below minus 20 millivolts, I don't have enough energy for it to heal. And when it can't heal right, you develop chronic disease, pain. And that could range from anything from a chronic pain that's everywhere, there all the time, autoimmune disease, cancer. Chronic disease takes many forms, but it's all because of low voltage. So I basically followed the protocol, and I avoided certain things. I did things to help increase voltage in my body, and I was actually able to get myself better. I noticed a difference within 2 weeks, and then after a year, I was completely better after being sick and almost dying for 2 years. So,
just from addressing your voltage.
Just from, addressing voltage and voltage, what you'll hear today, there's many things that go into it. Toxins being one of them. So when my kidney was healthy enough, I did something called a chelation test. Mm-hmm. And I tested for 13 C's of mercury poisoning.
Oh.
Now, mercury, you can get mercury several ways. I wasn't necessarily a fish eater. That's one of the ways you get mercury, but there's another thing we talk about today that you can get mercury from that I got growing up. And so...
Does it rhyme with vaccines?
It might. Huh. That it might. Wow, that's a good rhyme.
A good hack scene.
Everybody loves a good hack scene.
Yeah, So
thriller.
So that's where I developed a passion for toxins. And so I got myself better and using some of these techniques. And then I was trained through nerve specialist, and I ended up doing my undergrad. I went to chiropractic school, and now I see patients from all over the world with crazy cases too.
So when this ulcer that was in your stomach, do you think it took away the part of your stomach that produced the type of acid that you needed in order to break down food?
Well, part of it is it's their treatment that they gave me to help with the stomach ulcers, which was an antacid that blocked my stomach acid. So a lot of people, my stomach ulcers were caused from the anti-inflammatories I was given after surgery and the painkillers, but it was after when they gave me antacids that depletes the acid in your stomach, so that made me worse. So,
what kind of antacids were they giving you? Were they giving you the trace minerals stuff, the Natphos, or were they giving you Tums?
No, well, I did have Tums, but they give me strong prescription straight ones, Prilosec, Zegerid, but high doses of it, high doses. Because when you're feeling sick and they said, oh, we don't know what to do, you give you more dose, that just made me worse.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was a freshman in college, I had H. pylori ulcers, and they had me loaded up with Tagamet.
That's another one I took. Yeah.
And they were like, I was a freshman in college, and they're like, you can't drink any alcohol for 8 weeks. And I was like, wait, what? It's like designated driver for who knows how long. Wow. But they kept giving me these at the time. It was a lot of this stuff was prescription, like Zantac was prescription back then, and before it was over the counter. And they were giving me Zantac, they were giving me Tagamet, and I was taking all these things. And, I had all I would wake up in the middle of the night, and I felt like the only thing I could do was make myself throw up, because I felt like my stomach hurt so bad, and the acid felt like it was burning through my belly. That's how painful it was. And my parents, they'd hear me in the bathroom downstairs, and they'd come downstairs, and they'd be like, what's going on? And I'd be sitting there hugging the bowl, and they're like, are you okay? We're taking you to the emergency room. I'd be in the emergency room. They had me doing a liquid barium drink and trying to figure out what the heck's wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And man, it was so I didn't have the swollen testes and then the digestive problems, because, I could eat and digest food okay. And I was fairly regular and all those things. But man, that ulcer thing, that's a painful experience, having that kind of burning in your stomach to the point where you don't know what to do.
It's in your heart. It's heartburn.
Yeah. Well,
just kidding. That's a joke. I know that it's in your stomach.
But it's so painful. It is so painful. So sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, sorry you had to go through that too. And you're not going to be next. We're going to prevent that.
Oh no, I've done massive heartburn.
Oh, okay. We all three of us.
I used smokeless tobacco for 23 years and drank heavily and slept very little and worked very hard. So yeah, it all causes it, right? Stress, all kinds of things.
Yep.
push yourself to the limit and you're going to get a little heartburn.
Even
There you go.
overtraining, you overtrain your body. If you work out too much, there is such a thing as too much training, and it can have a detrimental effect to the way your body operates, the way your digestive system operates. And, I'm sure we'll get into this, but people for a very long time have been suffering from, genetic, hereditary fungal infections and things like that as well. So, they just don't know it, and they don't even think about it until someone brings it up on a podcast and they hear it, or they see an article in on a website, or one of their famous fitness enthusiasts that they follow on Instagram starts talking about it, and then it becomes a thing, and they're like, well, wait a minute, maybe this is the problem that I have. How do I
Twitter
to address this? Right, Twitter, Facebook. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram. We're on all of them.
Shameless plug. Yeah, so when you brought up the voltage thing, immediately reminded me, it jogged my memory of the salamander and its amazing ability to regenerate its limbs. I mean, it's kind of like the ultimate electro, besides the electric eel probably, right? Maybe that's the most electric. I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. But, right? Do you know about the salamander?
I do. That's work done by Robert Becker, and that's what he found is when they cut off the salamander, the voltage initially drops to clot so that you can stop the blood flow, but then the voltage spikes up and it doubles. So when the salamander's rim regrows, if the voltage stays up, and then once it regrows, it's back to normal. The voltage goes back down. And so Dr. Becker did this experiment with frogs where frogs don't regrow limbs, but he cut off frog legs. Sorry for you PETA followers and frog lovers. But
I hear they're tasty. I've never had one, but
yeah, I've never had Louisiana frog cakes either. But
are they good?
They're good.
Yeah, they're good. They serve them over here at Papa Do's.
Do they really?
Yeah, I don't know if they serve alligator over there too.
I've had alligator.
Yeah. It tastes like chicken.
We'll add that to the list of treats to have. Some frog cakes.
I've been frog gigging too. I know it's not real ethical. Where you and this was back in middle school, right?
Yeah.
And you'd get a long stick, unscrew the broom head or something, and get some duct tape, because that's the the miracle for anything, and duct tape a fork to the end of it, and then you take a flashlight and you just walk along the pond, and when you see them, they stare at it, and you go clack, and just stab them, and it's over. Doesn't hurt a bit.
And then you go cook them up, right?
Wow. Yeah. Well, you might. We did one time. I'm sure we wasted just kind of wasted a lot of frogs. Just
you were a kid. Yeah.
Frog hunting.
It happens. Yeah.
Intense.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot. Well, the thing is, you cannot get away with feeding yourself without killing a few animals. It's just impossible.
It's true.
In fact, vegans probably kill more animals than actually 100% carnivores. Because I don't know if you guys have ever plowed a field or, taken anything, seen how a farm actually works. But they basically till the entire field, and they chop up little bunnies and little mice and little frogs, and they chop them all up with their big implements.
Right.
And then I don't know if you've seen them, but seagulls and birds are always flying behind these tractors, and that's because
picking up all the carcasses.
Yeah, it's just kind of like an all-you-can-eat buffet,
right?
Of all these little animals, and anything that's left over, it gets pretty much napalmed by pesticides and other,
Take that, vegans.
Yeah, I mean, you're killing a lot more stuff to grow some tofu or whatever it is you're putting on your salad, even to grow salad than you would to just shoot a deer with an arrow, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, salamanders is what you're talking about.
So yeah, the salamanders. So yeah, back to frogs. What Dr. Becker did, and what they did is they took a watch battery and they put it on the frog to increase the voltage, and the frog limb grew back. And normally it doesn't grow back unlike a salamander's.
That's
so
crazy.
Yeah, voltage runs everything, and voltage, oxygen. Yeah, it's amazing. Once you understand that principle, you can find patterns and things.
Energy. I've been getting more into understanding energy and the flow of energy and things like that lately. And some might say energy is going to be the next form of currency, because oil, gas, electricity, all these things are a means of keeping things alive, right? Keeping things going.
The petrodollar,
Powering
the
things.
electrodollar.
Yeah.
The electrodollar.
Some might say, right?
Catchy.
But so after you graduated and you now run a practice and you have this website, and so you've been seeing patients. You've been seeing a lot of interesting things over the last couple of years, I would imagine, right?
Mm-hmm. Tons of interesting things. So because I went through that experience, it gives me a unique perspective. One, I got a passion for toxins and nerves. As a football guy, I never had diagnosed concussions, but I had a lot of hits to the head, which I found out later. My nerves were involved too. So going through what I went through, I'd go to a lot of doctors, and I'd only be able to spend like 3 or 5 minutes with them, because that's how the way insurance runs. These doctors are required to crank out tons of patients a day. It's a quantity thing, not a quality thing. Mm-hmm. So with me, when I sit and meet with patients, I don't take insurance. And because I do that, I have to spend a longer time with them to try to figure out, okay, what got you sick and what are we going to do to get you better? So I've been using these principles since 2008. But I started formally my practice in 2018. And so 2018 went along, and then all of a sudden we get COVID, right? 2020. And when COVID first hit, I was one of those people. I was like, I'm still going to take my family out. And so I did. I think my personal opinion is that the shutdowns were over-exaggerated. Definitely. We shouldn't have shut down. One, it affected people's immunities in the long run. Everyone got it eventually. We'll talk about maybe why today. But we shouldn't have shut down. So the good news for it, though, is it gave me the opportunity to do telehealth, too. So I got to jump in on that, and that gave me a perspective from other parts of the world, which I'll talk to you about today, too. But when 2020 hit, at first, people would get COVID, and it was kind of interesting. COVID, some of the cases I saw for it, for people who would get it and they get what's called the COVID long haulers, those cases just didn't act typical of other viruses. It was like, I haven't really seen something like this since Lyme's. And for you familiar with Lyme's disease, they actually theorized that Lyme's was created as a biological weapon off the coast of Connecticut. So there's a book about it called Lab either 246 or 247.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Very interesting read. They found out as a biological weapon, and the first doctors who diagnosed cases of Lyme's off the coast of Connecticut, they diagnosed the cases, and basically the government came in and said, no, you can't give this type of diagnosis. And so they started getting pushback, and so they started to realize, it's a cover-up. So this book, again, either Lab 246 or Lab 247, one of those numbers. I didn't go into accounting for a reason, but that we'll talk about Lyme. So COVID was kind of looking similar to Lyme's.
257.
257.
The disturbing story of the government's secret Plum Island.
There it is. That's
Plum
the one.
Island. I don't know if I've been to Plum Island. I think I've been to Plum Island as I grew up in the Boston area.
2-for-1 special.
There you go.
Put them in your sack lunches.
So
there it is on Amazon.
There you go.
$10 if anybody wants to go pick it up and read it.
Thank you for finding that. So yeah, when I saw these cases of long hauler COVID, where one of the classic symptoms of COVID was I lost smell and taste, and usually if you lose smell and taste, you get it right back. But after COVID, people wouldn't have it for months, and so I was like, what? This is weird.
Right.
And again, when I talk about COVID, I don't fear any virus or bacteria. My personal belief is God didn't send us here to fail, right? We can overcome anything. And so I'm not afraid of like the virus killing me itself. I'm afraid that they tried to use like the power of God, and they genetically modified some sort of virus.
They call that gain of function.
Gain of function. Ding, ding, ding.
Well, no, it's not gain of function. They're just manipulating the
pathogens.
laws. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we all know gain of function already. The documents are out there. Started in the early 2000s. But anyway, and COVID, in my personal opinion, was created in a lab. And my personal opinion is that it was created in a lab as a neurotoxin. And one of the things they wanted to target was smell and taste. And so here's why.
Yeah, let's hear your theory on that. I'm curious.
So we're on the good side, right? But there's truly evil people on this earth. And the evil people seem to have a common theme of population control. One of the ways you can control a populace is you not only can make them infertile, but you can take away their sex drive. What people don't realize is smell and taste.
Pheromones. You're going to pheromones.
Ding, 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 ding. You got it.
I knew it.
Yep. Smell is highly linked to sex drive. So I wrote a book on toxins. My second book's on intimacy for this purpose, because we need to get people's sex drives up again because of this COVID stuff. But yeah.
About blue pills.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I saw an article today that was, and I forget where I saw it, but it was about how don't worry, it's okay not to want to have sexual intercourse on Valentine's Day. Here we are on Valentine's Day, and us three dudes are sitting in a gym studio recording this,
Yeah.
Love you, babe.
You look great.
But I saw that, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation, because it's the timing of a lot of these articles or a lot of these comments that come from the overlords or whoever is like dictating this content come out, and these articles are written, and these ideas are kind of pumped out into the ethosphere. It's just a really interesting concept, and so it's funny that you brought that up, because I literally just saw this article about an hour ago.
Yep, you got it. So why pheromones are important. So what pheromones are is basically everyone has our own distinct smell. So they did this experiment where they had guys and they'd get sweaty in these shirts, and they took off these shirts and they gave it to women, and the women would smell the shirts, and the women would rate, which shirt smells the best to me. And then they would basically test their genetics, and they found that the shirts that smelled best for the women, they were actually more genetically compatible.
Interesting.
So when you have attraction, I'm attracted to my wife, I like her smell. And when she's attracted to me, she likes my smell. And that's the same for y'all. Your wife likes your smell, and you like her smell, okay? So what helps you smell is cranial nerve 1. It's one of the nerves that comes from your brainstem. And so when you lose that sense of smell, guess what? You lose that attraction. And that's one of the reasons people's sex drive is off. Now, here's the second one you hear is taste. Now, taste, there are several nerves that help you taste, okay? So there's 12 of these cranial nerves, and cranial nerve 7, 9, and 10 will help you taste. They help you taste sweet and salty things, and they help you taste sour and bitter things. So what's interesting about these nerves, 7, 9, and 10, is they are something called parasympathetic nerves. And you got this thing in your nervous system called your autonomic nervous system. And your autonomic nervous system, it's called autonomic because it should be automatic. You shouldn't have to think about it. So you got your sympathetic system, that's your fight or flight part of your nervous system. That shouldn't be turned on constantly. That should only be turned on in emergency situations when you want to survive. And then you also got your parasympathetic system. That's the rest and digest part of your nervous system. That allows you to not only sleep better, digest food, but it's also highly involved in intimacy. So your parasympathetic system allows you to have erection, and your sympathetic system allows you to have ejaculation or orgasm. So these cranial nerves, 7, 9, and 10, which help you taste, will also help you have erections. So you take away smell, you lose that attraction. You take away taste, you lose that ability to get erection. And this is what I started noticing in 2020 when people would come in with these long haul COVID symptoms. I was like, this is weird. And what was weird about it is, old people will come in and they'll talk about their intimacy problems. But when I saw it in young people, I was like, what? This is like a teenage kid, a 20-year-old, 30-year-old with no sex drive?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Weird.
It's not right.
Right.
It didn't. The dots did not add up. And so when I saw this, it not only stayed like this, but it even got worse. So once 2021, 2022 rolled around, and people started getting the COVID vaccine, you saw it get worse.
Yeah. It's interesting.
It's probably not correlated. It's probably not.
No.
Probably nothing.
No.
It's probably
not at all, right?
Nothing
It's
to
just
see
stroke season.
here.
Yeah.
It's
All
just
is
stroke
well.
Stroke it yourself season. That's
Yeah.
what it is. So this is interesting, and it's along the same lines, but I've heard a while back, years ago, that smelling your partner's farts helps you defeat cancers in your body.
Interesting. I've not heard that.
I don't know. I haven't heard a lot about it. I've just heard that. And it's always stuck in my head because it's crazy.
Yeah,
Sounds
it is.
crazy, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought a guy that knows all about smelling may be able to offer a little bit of, interpretation
Insight.
to this crazy idea.
Well, maybe my theory on that one is if you're smelling someone's farts and it's helping your cancer cells, maybe it's like, oh, maybe I should eat better. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. You got me there. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's like you get cancer and you start smelling farts and it cures your cancer. I think that's like you're smelling farts and it helps defeat the cancer from ever flaring up. I know it's crazy.
I mean, like maybe it has like an anti-inflammatory response in your system, something like that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
I mean,
I don't know that I would try that, but
listen, I didn't come up with this on my own.
there's a lot of other things I would try first.
Well, right,
What doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah,
Won't make
true.
symptoms worse.
Right? True.
Smell my shoe. It smells terrible. Like, okay.
Now, what happens if you don't like the way your wife smells? Not that I don't like the way. I'm just curious. Like,
You're
I'm sure
masochistic.
I'm just sure that there are people who maybe like, oh man, you stink. You know what I mean? Like if maybe they go work out and they come back and you're like,
So I talk about this in my book that'll be coming out soon, but life is like a frequency too, and so there are cycles of hormones. So there are times when your wife may not smell good to you. Like when your wife's on her cycle, she may not smell good to you, and that's actually your body's time to reset. And so our levels of testosterone will actually naturally decrease when your spouse is on your cycle.
It's like when they say like all these chicks that when they start hanging out together, their cycles start to align, right? Or they're really good friends. And so it's interesting. Like when you spend decades with, like years and years and then ultimately decades with your loved one, your wife, after a while, you start to align as well. That's interesting. That's
So the
really,
ladies
really
get more irritable because they're on their cycle, and then the men actually get more vulnerable, essentially, because they're testosterone. So it's a double whammy, essentially, is what you've indicated here.
You got it.
Like a woman's cycle is effectively her body detoxifying herself, right? Like it's a natural occurrence. And I was listening to an older podcast episode, Ben Greenfield podcast episode. He was interviewing Dr. Pompa, who's a really well-known like detox specialist. And I happen to be following his detox cycle right now. And I can speak from experience because I was extremely irritable last week. I was not feeling great. It was my first week into it, and I was, I could just feel my body flushing toxins out of it, and
Did you eat ice cream and cry about movies?
No. I mean, I've been like the diet's been extremely clean, as part of the protocol. But it's interesting because I was listening to him talk about this, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I can empathize with the females who are going through this like cycle, detox, irritability, because it's really effectively like your body's natural way of detoxifying.
Jeremy knows what it's like to be a woman.
No, I do not.
Oh, I thought
don't
you were
even
trying to say.
pretend to. I know what it's like to be irritable during a detoxification. Don't get it twisted. They're two very different things.
I just didn't want to.
You put words in my mouth.
know, it's
People
too
around
funny.
here like to put words in my mouth. I don't know.
I don't either. It was too easy.
Sorry. Continue.
You're good. You're good. So, and with what I saw, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, a lot of the patients I see, like I'm kind of like the last line of defense. Like they've tried everything else and they're desperate. So this is where it's not only to me when I saw this COVID thing and the decrease in sex drive and hormones. And another interesting fact is, again, back to taste. These nerves are in your tongue. And so for men, if our tongue can't go upward, we also have a tough time with erections because your tongue is meant to go upward. It's connected, the mouth and the genitals. And also when your tongue can go upward and touch the top of your mouth and you breathe properly, it helps you with hormone production, testosterone
I'm sitting
production.
here like constantly trying to see if my tongue will touch that. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
Touch
the
my
test they
nose.
all
I
do.
can touch my nose. Is that why Mick Jagger is such a stud? Is it Mick Jagger or
Gene Simmons.
Whatever.
You're thinking of Gene
Simmons.
Simmons.
Thinking
Yeah,
Gene
from
Simmons.
Kiss.
Yeah, he cut his tongue, right, to make it. Well,
God.
maybe, I don't know.
What does that mean?
But
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
anyway, so yeah, it wasn't just an intimacy thing that you saw people have decreased intimacy at younger ages and hormone production, but when it got scary concerning is when you see these kids come in. And so for females, I've had tons of patients who had the vaccine, the COVID vaccine, and these are young women, teenage age, and then after, sometimes for them it's close to immediately after, sometimes within a couple hours, days, sometimes a couple months. It's different for each patient, but they get these neurological symptoms. And I've seen this so much, and it's devastating to see. Neurological tics, they can be verbal tics, movement tics.
Well, I've seen they blame that all on TikTok from the Tourette's TikTok.
The Tourette's TikTok.
That's
people.
what they've blamed it on. I've read an article about
Yeah,
this.
they blamed it on
Must be
TikTok.
true.
It was like a thing, using it too much or whatever.
Yeah, there could be, obviously, there could be multiple factors here. People on their electronics too long is bad too, right? Mm-hmm. But when you see it over and over again and it's timed after the vaccine, it's like, it's devastating. So that's what I saw in these young girls, where normally you see this in an older population, which what I saw before 2021. But then when you see it in these young people after this, it's like, oh man, this is correlated. Has to be. Now for young men, you'd also see a lot of young men who would get myocarditis. And teenagers, it's like, no, you don't see this in teenagers. This has gotta be linked. Now, the good news is there's things you can do to help it all. But after seeing this over and over again as a practitioner, you start to get burned out after a while. You're like,
I bet.
I want to help people, but I wish more people knew and they could prevent. If you could prevent it, even better. And so that's why I'm putting myself out there with all this.
Good for you. God bless you.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I mean, I've been on the I didn't grow up and I didn't enter adulthood as an quote anti-vaxxer. I wouldn't classify myself as an anti-vaxxer, although the more I learn, and certainly COVID woke a lot of people up as far as what vaccines are, what's in them. More people pay attention to those things, and everyone should take a vested interest in their own health, right? We have, as a society, we have abdicated everything. We've abdicated our education to the experts that hey, they're going to teach our kids all the things that the kids should learn in school. And, we've always just trusted that content and that everything. And now more and more people are paying attention to those things and the content that's in the schools and the libraries and, what's going on. And then the same thing with the medical industry, right? Like people are paying attention to, okay, well, what's actually in these vaccines, and why is there mercury in vaccines? Why is there aluminum and all these other heavy metals that really don't have any need to be in there, right? I mean, it's not going to, like, it's actually going to, we talked about toxins, right? Toxins kill, right? That's why they're toxic. That's why they're called toxins. And so,
well, they've done away with a lot of the mercury in vaccines, have they not?
right.
They switched it to aluminum, which is also toxic, and they've also never done long-term studies. And here's what's important to know is that the type of exposure. So if I'm walking around and I breathe in a toxin, you might get 25% exposure.
Like from a train derailment or something.
Yeah,
strange,
a little
like,
vinyl
let's say,
chloride, right?
Right.
That's a sad one too.
Yeah.
Another subject, another podcast, right? But you get about 25% exposure with that. You put something on your skin, you get about 25 to 50. You ingest something, you get it 50 to 75. But when you directly inject a toxin, it goes past the brain-blood barrier. You get 100% absorption.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Is a lot of the old ones had mercury. They switched it to aluminum, still toxic. And the new vaccines they have this last couple of years, they don't technically have aluminum or mercury, but they do have something called polysorbate 80 and polyethylene glycol, both toxic, not meant to be injected, as well as other spike proteins. So, yeah.
But they'll tell you that you have to have some type of toxin in the vaccine because the toxin is what creates the response, right?
That's what they say. The whole system's kind of flawed. My personal belief is, again, God didn't send us here to fail. I feel like you don't have to get an injection for something to work. A natural immunity is always the best.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would agree with that. And I think a lot of people who wouldn't have agreed with that 10 years ago would agree with you now. Myself being one of them. It's an interesting kind of journey that people have been on the last couple of years. And it's sad that people are having to, wake up due to these types of issues. We've talked about this on the show before, where you're starting to see athletes all over the world dropping dead on the pitch in soccer, dropping dead on the court in basketball, having heart issues, ex-athletes in their 40s dying in their sleep from some heart complications. And, it's teenagers. I mean, it's what is it, like 18, if you're age 18 to 44, your chances. And then once you see this stuff and you start to question it, and then all of a sudden in the news everywhere, it's climate change is causing, higher incidence of myocarditis in ages 18 to 44, and eating McDonald's is causing more. It's like, okay, like all of these different things. Like, yeah, well, maybe that's a bad example, but like. It could be, well, you know what it is now? It's like eating too many eggs. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like every 10 years you flip-flop and you tell us, and now we're finding out, interestingly enough, all of these egg shortages and dying chickens all over the place. They're now saying that eggs are good for your COVID response, or for, what is it? It's heart healthy. The eggs are heart healthy, and they can help you flush out toxins.
Right,
and
there's
things
an
like
NIH article about it, National Institutes of Health article.
Interesting timing that article comes out right around the time all these eggs start to disappear. Hey, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but
right. Wacko.
So I got a question for you. So, the CDC just came out today, and or not today, a couple days ago, I think, and said that the COVID vaccine is now going to be on the schedule for schools, right? Can you talk a little bit about that, like, and your opinions on that? Because I have my opinions, but I think people would much rather hear yours.
When I saw that, it put me over the edge, completely over the edge. Because again, I'm seeing this all the time, and I'm getting burned out. Same patients, day, night, weekends, you name it. When I see this happening over and over again, when I saw that, I lost it. It was like they have no idea what they're doing to kids, and the poor parents that I've seen to see the parents. I feel bad for them too, seeing what their kids go through. It's hard. So when I saw that, the first thing I thought is, with the world we're in, it can be easy to go like negative, like, oh, they're going to try to mandate it. But I always try to look at a positive in everything. So when the CDC comes out with that, what's going to happen next is they're going to try to make this a mandate in schools. And when they make this a mandate in schools, we're going to see even more kids not only get sick, but become less fertile, have growth problems, hormone problems, you name it. So at the community level, I saw you've interviewed some Prosper ISD
school board
candidates recently. Yep. I think one of the new questions you're going to have to ask them is, if the vaccine mandate comes through, are you going to say no to it? Because mandate is wrong. If people want to get it, or if they want their kids to get it, that's up to them. But a mandate, when you're trying to force someone to get it, that's wrong.
What about shedding? I'm concerned about all the things I read about vaccines and actually shedding the vaccine onto other individuals. And if you had said that 2 years ago, people would call you a conspiracy theorist. But more and more data has come out indicating, and of course, anytime you talk about this, it's like you're immediately labeled as a conspiracy theorist. You're anti-big pharma, which, by the way, if at this point everyone should be, but there are better ways to solve problems, at least to start to try to solve problems.
Well, Pfizer actually said that it wasn't them; it was actually the government telling them to do it. They just recently said that. I think today, even I was reading this in the news that was their defense, game. Maybe in Bulgaria.
Okay.
I forgot the country, but
sounds like finger pointing to me.
Some country was suing Pfizer over the vaccine.
Wasn't that like Thailand or Singapore or one of those countries, I thought.
But anyway, that was their defense, is that, we didn't create this. We were told to create this. The government told us to do it. That was their defense.
Weren't there patents for the vaccine
The United States government owns the patent for the Moderna vaccine, and it was filed before COVID came out.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, great Dr. David Martin uncovered that a while back. Patent lawyer, I think, also doctor, and he's big on this. I've seen a lot of his stuff. Interesting timing. We were talking about Prosper ISD and some of the school board candidates that we've interviewed recently. We'd welcome all the school board candidates to come on and talk about the issues, and that's a good suggestion that we should definitely ask those questions, especially now given an article was just referenced in their newsletter, the Prosper ISD newsletter came out, I think it was today, and it was a newsletter article on childhood heart disease, actually. Knowledge is power, get your child screened. It talks about cholesterol, family history, at what age, are people diagnosed with heart disease, at what age they experience stroke or heart attack, finding out a little bit about your family history. And then, obviously some of this stuff's good. Embrace a healthy lifestyle, which of course everyone should, eat well, understand what your body responds to well and doesn't respond well to, and causes like an anti-inflammatory or a digestive distress response. But I just think that this is really interesting timing that the CDC makes this announcement. Then this article comes out on childrenshealth.com. And then it just begs the question, like, who asks to have this information disseminated? Like, because I can't imagine that this article is only being referenced in this Prosper ISD newsletter. I've got to imagine it's being referenced in a lot of school newsletters.
I don't know if you've seen our big, beautiful football stadium in downtown Prosper, but it's the Children's Health Football Stadium.
Yeah.
Just saying. And this happens to be an article from Children's Health. I don't know. Maybe there's a link there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But like people will push back and say, hey, there's never an agenda.
No.
There is no agenda. That's conspiracy. You're crazy. Yeah. But when you start to connect these dots and you're like, it just begs the question, right? It's where is it coming from? Who's asking for this information to be put out? And are people vetting it, or are they just saying, okay, sure, we'll just reference this article in our newsletter because you asked us to, you know? And again, I'm not saying that the article itself has anything wrong in it. I'm just saying that it's interesting timing given the announcement from the CDC with the COVID vaccine being part of the schedule. And then, you know, I see the writing on the wall just like you do. At some point, they are going to try to mandate this. And people have been saying this for months, if not a couple of years now.
You got to fight like crazy. And you know, back to the thing I should touch on too with the shedding is when this all started happening, especially 2021, 2022 range, I have a lot of female patients, and even those who did not get the vaccine, their cycles were changed. And my personal belief is from the shedding and the spike proteins. And this happened to tons of my female patients. And there's a bunch of the female patients too. There's some that had miscarriages and they didn't even get the vaccine. So yeah, shedding I believe is real. And when you look at what they do with water, the shedding could come from urine or feces. And this is going to sound gross to you, but they actually recycle sewage water into drinking water.
Oh, yeah.
Makes you want to get a good water filter.
RO.
Definitely.
RO, put some trace minerals back into it. That's what I do here. We have an RO filter, and we cycle, so we do RO water, reverse osmosis, for those who don't know what RO is. And then we use concentrate trace mineral drops, and we put a few drops of that into our water to remineralize the water with the minerals that are stripped through the RO process, so that we have nice, clean, healthy drinking water all the time.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to remineralize too. Very important to keep the minerals in so it doesn't leach some of the water from your cells in your GI tract. So that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I saw that article, and you mentioned that article, it's usually in the media you see there's a diversion, and even back before COVID started, I started noticing like, man, they're building so many hospitals, especially here in Texas. I was like,
everywhere,
and I'd look at the parking lots; they'd be empty. I'm like, why do you need so many hospitals empty? That seemed like a waste of money. Like,
right.
But it's like, were they preparing for something?
A lot of children's hospitals too. A lot
of intensive care ERs, basically like pop-up ERs.
Which I can a lot of those.
And they had a huge tax incentive for that in order to decrease the basically access to ERs.
Yeah.
Because they charge you ER prices for like a walk-in clinic, essentially. And they're like, oh, we'll just send you to the hospital. So you just took one stop, swipe your credit card one more time, to get to finally the man behind the curtain that eventually tells you you need more pharmaceuticals.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So how do you treat?
Love this. This is my favorite. Okay.
This is going to be my favorite too, because I'm real big on this journey.
So
Definitely.
When you look at, again, everything revolves around voltage. So everything has its own frequency. When I'm talking frequency, I'm talking like a wave like this, right? Mm-hmm. The frequencies of these toxins are disharmonious to the body. Now, some toxins out there, so I put toxins, when I say toxins, I put toxins in several categories. So the first category of toxins I have is microbial toxins. Viruses, bacteria, molds and funguses. When you look at microbial toxins, they might be using physics against us, but them using physics against us is also their weakness. So there was a scientist back in the day named Royal Rife. Have y'all heard of him before?
No.
Okay. He was in the early 1900s. He developed these really detailed microscopes, and he would put these viruses and bacteria under these microscopes, and he would turn a frequency dial. And he found at certain frequencies, viruses or bacteria die off. So an example is strep. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but he'd put a strep bacteria and turn the dial at, let's say at 41 hertz, it died. Put another strep bacteria, 41 hertz, it died. So when you use frequency against some of these viruses or bacteria, this potentially could kill them off. Or they actually did a research study, and they found that E. coli bacteria communicate via AM/FM radio waves.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild.
So that's in my first book. It's called Healing Playbook, Non-Invasive Detox Secrets to Save Time, Money, and Resources. You can get it on Amazon, but I referenced that article. So they're using frequency against us. So there's this thing called quorum sensing. So a virus or bacteria will build up... Quorum sensing.
A quorum with a Q?
With a Q.
Okay, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So viruses or bacteria, they basically build up a bunch of these like foot soldiers. And then they send a signal, attack. And on that attack, that's when they strike the body. Yeah. Okay? My personal belief is they have intelligence, and so they can try to fight you, but they don't want to kill you. But again, I'll talk to you about
like a little tardigrade.
I don't know what that is.
Anyway,
what?
Sorry.
What's that?
It's like this this tiny little microscopic animal. It's like it's called a tardigrade.
Oh,
I don't know. You should look it up online.
Sounds like something from like Ant-Man or something.
No, it really does. It looks like one. It's a tardigrade. Tardigrade. Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out. But so they actually found they communicate through AM/FM radio waves, and then the viruses and bacteria also surround themselves with a shield. And we'll get to how to treat them in a second, but you need to understand the concept and the physics behind it. But, oh, wow.
That's a tardigrade.
It looks like something out of Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. That's gross. That's crazy. It does look like something out of Star Wars. It's like Jabba the Hutt with legs.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks Jabba. Like a 8-legged thing with a butthole
there
at the front.
That is a very good description.
Yeah, a butt face.
There you go. So, these viruses and bacteria, they also surround themselves with something called a biofilm. And it's basically like a shield that they surround themselves with that makes them hide out from the immune system. So they're using physics against us. But when you look at chemical, metal, or airborne toxins, those act one of two ways. Some of them act like a magnet to your cell wall.
Okay.
Other ones, actually like mercury, will get inside your cell, and they actually repel in nature. The reason they repel is that it's their charge they have, and that's what keeps them inside the cell where it's more toxic. So when you look at toxins, it's their frequency, it's their charge that they stay in the body. So what you do is, if you have the frequency of a toxin, what you do is you flip its polarity. And when you drive in the flipped polarity frequency into the body, when you put the reverse frequency to the frequency of the toxin, you see how it's opposite? Mm-hmm. It cancels out, something called destructive interference. Okay. So I use this process through an advanced form of energy called scalar energy, but I also use it, I've found a combination of ingredients that'll allow the reverse frequency to get inside the cell. So
it increases conductivity essentially?
Increases as in the ingredients or what?
The conductivity of the frequency?
So you need ingredients that'll get inside the cell. There's a lot of ingredients out there that cannot penetrate the cell wall.
Okay.
So there's two ways to do this, and that's why one of the reasons I wrote my book, because I wanted to teach the average person how to do this, because again, there's going to be a healthcare shortage. In my personal opinion, it's already hit.
Oh, for sure.
People need non-invasive ways to detox and get rid of toxins that work. So that's why I wrote the book. But when you put that reverse frequency in, destructive interference occurs, and that could do several things for these toxins. For the microbial toxins, could kill them off, like what Royal Rife did, or it could jam their communication signaling. That'll make it so they can't communicate or replicate. That'll weaken them so the immune system can take care of the rest. Or this could also bust their biofilm, which is their little hideout. That way it weakens them so the immune system can take care of it. That's for microbial toxins. Now, for chemical, metal, or airborne toxins, in order to demagnetize something, you put a reverse frequency in. It takes away its magnetism. For ones that repel, when you put the reverse frequency in, like for mercury, it takes away its charge. That way it can actually leave the cell. And then after, people have to take some sort of binder. An example of a binder is something like charcoal, activated charcoal, bamboo charcoal. That binds to the debris. That way that the body can take it and eliminate it so it doesn't get reabsorbed. But I have had many patients who have had the vaccine. I have reverse frequencies for it. And there's kids coming with myocarditis, nerve stuff. Once you get the toxin out, you also have to retrain the nerves. And because the vaccine and COVID itself is a neurotoxin, once you retrain the nerve, the body can go back like what it used to do before.
So is that, does the atomic number have something to do with these particular things in there?
It does for like metal toxins, like mercury, aluminum. Yes, atomic number has to do with it.
Because I'm just thinking back to science class, from like, I don't know when, school.
I am science.
And I'm thinking like about the number of protons in a nucleus of an atom, and that's how you come up with like the atomic score and everything. And when I hear you talking about it, I couldn't help but think about that.
Yeah, and some of the frequencies of the reverse frequencies of the toxins you can use using the periodic table to reverse it and drive it in the system. So I've had patients in Australia and Canada, which are very locked down places, bless their hearts.
Yeah,
they could not get, I could not get them bottles of these reverse frequencies. And so I'm right now in the process of coming up with an app so that way they can get it.
So, yeah, you did a lot of telehealth. I remember you talking about that at the beginning, and it kind of reminded me of this cool infographic that I saw, I don't know, about a week ago that was going over all the different blood types in the world and how, like, Ecuador, 75% of Ecuadorians have type A or have type O positive blood. And then a whole lot of like Spain, France, Germany, Poland, Czech, Slovakia, Ukraine, Turkey, Finland, Sweden. They're mostly A positive, where US and pretty much all of North and South America are all O positive. And then there's just a couple spots like Pakistan and Bangladesh that are overwhelmingly B positive. So it's like different parts of the world have different basically constructs, essentially, biological constructs. So it's interesting that you had that opportunity to do telehealth and get a good sample of what's going on and how the different blood types and how different biological constructs come into play in order to really kind of refine your prognosis and your healing solution.
Yep, it's not just isolated here in the United States. The same thing I'm seeing in patients here local. I see it all throughout the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see any kind of like specific abnormalities or things that are different based on geographical region, or is it all pretty much rhymed together because it's all coming straight from the same strand of COVID or whatever it is?
You know, interesting you mentioned the geographic reason. That I like that, what you referenced. When you look at blood types, there are certain blood types that handle different foods better than others. So an example is A positive blood types. They do better on more like vegetables, fruits, and like fish, turkey, chicken. Yeah. Other blood types like type O's, they do better on the red meats. And so that's the only thing I've been able to correlate. But as far as reactions to COVID and the vaccines, it really is different for each person. Again, I tend to see more neurological things for females, more vascular things for males. But I also, it's not necessarily only that. You know, there's been ALS patients, people who get ALS shortly after getting it.
Yeah.
There's people who get cancer shortly. So it really depends on each individual. I haven't been able to figure out, this region gets this region, it's just different.
Yeah. Well, there's another set of data that you could kind of cross-reference.
Yeah.
Potentially. Or
Well,
just ask ChatGPT. I'm sure it'll give you
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Well, it might lead me another direction. So
They also say like your DNA profile, if you've gotten a 23andMe and you've got the raw data and you've got your genetic data, that could also help identify the foods that you respond well to versus not responding well to. And you get an inflammatory response. If you, I happen to know that my genetic profile is susceptible to smoked meat. So like if I sadly, I'm in Texas.
Smoked meat, not drugs.
And I love brisket,
Smoked meat, not drugs.
And I love brisket. I love a good pork roast. I love ribs, all that stuff. But it's not great for my DNA profile, So, highly, high heat cooked like red meat and things like that can cause long-term, I guess, problems. But I do have a question for you with respect to the FDA and what your perspective is on them trying to gain control over supplements and herbal medicines and then regulate those. Because I'm starting to feel like, look, there has been a shift. I think there's been a shift. I would assume you've seen this shift as well, away from more kind of what I would call Western reactive medicine to more of a kind of whole body, health seeking, Eastern medicine, holistic approach to supplementing, you're seeing more integrative, primary care physicians do more integrative medicine nowadays so that they can try to treat you with herbal remedies and more of these kind of Eastern holistic remedies first to see if that solves the problem. Try to solve it with diet, herbs, oils, and supplements, right? And
massage.
And because of that, obviously the pharmaceutical companies don't like that because then they don't make money off the drugs that they want the doctors to prescribe. And then the FDA, being a government body, is not going to like that because they're in bed with the pharmaceutical companies. So you want to talk a little bit about that and your perspective?
Absolutely. And one thing I should say is obviously there can be a time and a place for surgery, right? If I get in a car accident, knock on wood, I don't, but if I get a car accident and my arm's broken in half and my bone's sticking out, obviously I'm going to go to a surgeon to get that fixed, right?
Right.
We need surgeons.
You mean you're not going to rub some essential oils on that and
I'm
be
gonna
like, I'm good?
You should try leeches. I heard that
That
leeches.
leeches, yes, that'll kill the infection right away. No, that wasn't authorized by the
bleed it
FDA.
off.
But,
Bleed it off.
there's obviously a time and place, but I think we need to go with these lower modalities first. That shouldn't always be the go-to, and that's what culturally that's always been the go-to. So that being said, yes, the FDA, it's very interesting. I've seen it firsthand. So when I was doing my undergrad up in Utah, I worked for a store owned by a farm, and we sold raw milk. So,
Are you kidding me?
yeah.
Send this guy to Guantanamo Bay.
All right. Well, I don't want to be waterboarded, but anyway.
God forbid, raw milk.
Raw milk. But luckily in Utah, it was legal there. The one time this guy came in with this suit and he had his military get up on. I was like, oh, are you, it was like a commander suit, with the things on the shoulders, the hat. And I was like, oh, are you Army, Navy, Air Force? He's like, I'm FDA. I was like, what? FDA has military suits?
And I'm packing.
Yeah.
Did he have a firearm on him?
I didn't. I couldn't tell. He must have been concealing it.
A bandolier of grenades.
Yeah. He had them ready. He was all Rambo'd up for the raw milk store, right? But he just bought some cheese. I was obviously going to be nice to the guy, but it was like, man, that was the first my experience at the FDA. Like, man, they have military suits. What's up with that? But this is very dangerous. If they get a hold and they pass that, it's going to be bad. So the way to fight it, obviously, you fight it tooth and nail at the national level. But right now, my personal belief, now more than ever, you need to surround yourself with a community of like-minded people. Mm-hmm. And that's why I feel very good where we live.
So do I.
Everyone's like-minded. Actually, a lot of people are holistic here. And so if the FDA did that, because we're in a like-minded community, our community's not going to let that happen.
Yeah, you can rally around your people.
And yeah, rally on your people, rally around your community, your state. At the state, local level, we got to be able to control what we can. But the FDA is going to try to do it. But if you live in the wrong state, California, New York, or Illinois, you know, Jersey,
Massachusetts.
If the FDA does the ban, you can kiss your supplements, nutraceuticals goodbye.
So a lot of mammals just kind of quit milk after a certain age, right? Like, so do you feel like humans still benefit from even the full unfiltered raw milk? You know, I mean, do you think that we're the only mammal that
I hear goat's milk is like a better bio.
The proteins are smaller.
Yeah,
right?
I use goat whey protein.
That's what we feed my 5-month-old.
Goat whey protein.
A Brita, yeah.
Oh, cabrita?
Cabrita formula, yeah.
I use a powder.
It's a good one.
Imported from Holland or something.
Yeah. So, you know, I agree. The goat, sheep are going to be closer to human milk.
Right.
But it really depends on your body type. As long as you're digesting your proteins, that seems to be the big indicator. So when we eat our food comes in a protein form. And your protein is made up of a combination of amino acids. And if you have enough stomach acid, you'll be able to digest those proteins. So when you say, shorter, smaller proteins, that's why the raw goat's milk, sheep's milk is easier to digest, is they're smaller proteins. So we absorb amino acids, we don't absorb proteins. So as long as you're having enough stomach acid and proper digestion, you can handle raw milk. But not everyone can, but you obviously got to go to a clean source for it. The place I went to the place I worked at in Utah, they tested it. And there's places here that'll test the raw milk, and they're on free roaming cows. That's also safer, because if it was a factory cow and you drink that raw milk, you have a high chance of some food poisoning. Right, yeah. But it's just different for everybody's body type.
Yeah,
okay.
Not to mention a parasite, if you never know.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, the grains produce that, right? Once they start getting on the grains.
Well, we got to start eating bugs, I thought.
Right. Yeah, we do. We should. We all be
Cricket
eating
powder,
mealworms.
cricket meal.
Mealworms and crickets, they say, are the highest protein.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah. So following along on the supplemental, kind of medicine approach, how do we know when you can trust a supplement or an herbal medicine? Because there's a lot out there. You can go on Amazon and you can pretty much buy any supplement or vitamin, mineral, oil, digestible or not, otherwise, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can get pretty much anything. But how do you know, how do you identify the quality brands versus the ones that are just, trying to make a buck, so to speak? And what do you need to look for?
Oh, wow. You opened up a can there too. So obviously, I think
we're eating worms now.
Yeah, we're eating worms. You're right.
A can of something else.
Can of something. Yeah, the with the supplements, they should be free. Like the FDA shouldn't. I don't believe the FDA should regulate them, because we're a free market, we're a free enterprise, we're capitalist.
Dick Durbin wants to change that. He's a senator from Illinois, right? And he hasn't filed a stock transaction report in over a decade since they enacted the STOCK Act. And he's done all kinds of insider trading, Senator Dick Durbin.
Allegedly.
No.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, because he files, you have to file annually, and it's all on that. But he's supposed to be filing within 30 days of the transactions, and he's never filed once.
How does he not get in trouble with the
rules for
IRS?
It's a rule just for them, so it's not like it's rules for me, but not it's like it's literally a rule for them.
Rules for radicals.
Yeah, essentially, there you go. That's what it is, right? But anyway, he wants to change that, and he wants to make it really hard for all these supplements to basically get registered with the FDA, essentially.
Yeah, they want to ban vitamin D and of course.
They want to make the counter higher for the over-the-counter people.
So but that being said, with the supplements, a large percentage of them on the market are just I'm not a fan of. So I look out for certain ingredients. There's certain filler ingredients out there. A lot of supplements will have magnesium stearate. That makes it so your body can't absorb them as much. Right. There's other ones out there. A lot of them, stevia is really popular right now. But when you look at the origins of stevia, they actually use it to induce abortion in the locations you get it.
Is that right?
Really?
I've never heard that. That's wild.
Yeah, the plant itself, they use it to induce abortions where it comes from. So, so yeah, a lot of people use stevia, but it's like...
I mean, I don't use it, but I did ask because I'm doing that detox, and I've been drinking this god-awful juice every day for like a couple of weeks now, and... It's really bad, and the recipe says if you can't really stomach it, use some liquids, a couple drops of liquid stevia. I've yet to use it because I have no problem muscling things down.
Then you can abort your butt baby.
That's
a real thing.
I know.
It's a real thing.
Sure it
that
is.
thing, that picture, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like a tardigrade. Yeah. You're right.
That's so gross.
The prosthetic baby.
So,
but yeah, there's certain ingredients you can look out for. I'm kind of old school. I call myself a minimalist, meaning I want to stick to the stuff that works. And life's already busy. Busy seeing patients. Got family, kids. I got a lot of stuff to do. So I want to take the stuff that works. So I stick to what works. And honestly, the food in the perfect world, we would all have our own gardens too. And right now, I actually think it might be a good idea to learn how to grow your own garden, which might be kind of tough here in Texas. It's hard to grow stuff, but...
Well, not only that, but there's really not a lot, like at least where we live in these communities, there's not a lot of room. You know what I mean? Like you've got a fairly small backyard, we've got a pool and like a outdoor little kitchen area. So we don't have any like grass area to really grow it, right? You can maybe do some raised beds or some things like that, or like hanging off the fence, but still it's like, it becomes challenging to grow certain things at that point. And when you have these
greenhouse,
that'd be awesome. When you have these train wrecks, releasing, these toxins into the air in an area where they have one of the largest, populations for, grass-fed, grass-finished farmers, and I'm seeing chickens dying. I'm seeing what was the other thing I saw? There's a lot of heirloom vegetable growers in that area up in Ohio as well, in that area. So it's just really interesting that these things are happening in areas where there are those types of things that, people are suggesting, hey, now might be the time you might want to stock up on some heirloom tomato seeds or some heirloom this and that. And
the reason he mentions heirloom is, what's cool about heirloom is other seeds, when they grow, that's like they grow the vegetable or the fruit, that's it. Heirloom, when they grow to bush, it produces like hundreds or thousands of seeds each year. And so you can keep getting seeds over and over again.
Sustainable.
Yeah. So I heard the way they make fruits seedless is they give it the same...
Stevia?
No. But that'd be pretty logical given what we just learned. But they give it the same drug that they give people that have high uric acid, or what do they call it? What is the disease?
Hyaluronic.
Uric acid.
Like gout?
Yes, gout.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same stuff they give for gout medicine. To make like the watermelon seedless, they give it gout medicine, and it does away with the seeds. That's what I heard.
Ugh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Where
doesn't sound good.
No, it doesn't. So where do you recommend people go if they're interested in looking for information? There's a ton of information out there. It's super overwhelming. If you're new to this space, I mean, I have a lot of resources because I've been really into this concept of diet, nutrition, health, and wellness for the better part of 2 decades now. And so, but people who don't know and don't, are just maybe starting to think about this because of all the shit that's been happening in the world in the last couple of years, and people are now starting to get a little concerned and starting to think like, okay, maybe I need to eat better. Maybe I need to start looking into taking some supplements. I need to do better, more exercise. I need to treat myself differently. Where do people go to get that kind of information? Like, do you have any go-to resources that you suggest?
Well, obviously, I'm a little biased.
Your
but
website, clearly, right? But
I'm just because everyone's got their own experience in life, and I feel blessed. I've been trained with some of the best in the world, and so what I advise people to do is you got to find the people that resonate with you and you follow them. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of great. I use biohacks too myself. One of them we talk about eating. Some of my favorite biohacks are activating the nerves and increasing your oxygen. So one of my colleagues out in South Carolina, one of them who trained me, his name's Dr. Max Collins, he'll take people on these hikes and he'll put them in this certain mouth guard that helps train that tongue positioning I told you about earlier. Mm-hmm. And they'll do these hikes and people will go a long time without food or water. And they're like, their body stresses. And then all of a sudden their body flips a switch.
Yeah.
And they learn to get energy just from breathing. So there's so
Quantum
many
energy.
Yeah, there you go. So there's so many cool things out there. You got to find someone who resonates with you, whether it's my stuff, Dr. Tennant's incredible, Dr. Mercola, Ben
I
Greenfield.
love Joe Mercola. Yeah, Ben Greenfield. I'm a big fan.
There's Dr. Axe. There's a lot of great people out there. You find 2 or 3 people that resonate with you, and as long as you feel like they're not leading you astray, they're a great resource.
Yeah. So what are you feeding your family? What's a typical week? What do you, probably Captain Crunch for breakfast, McDonald's for lunch?
Of course,
pizza,
a little side of ice cream. You put some sprinkles on that Captain Crunch too.
Yeah, a little red 40.
Doesn't have enough, right?
Dude, when I was growing up, it was Honey Nut Cheerios, and we'd take a spoonful of sugar and we'd all over it. And I'm like, what were we thinking?
I know. With my kids, I will never force them. Because when you force them to eat healthy all the time, it's like, they have a pushback. And so on social settings, I'll let them have the junk stuff. I'm cool with that. When grandma and grandpa come over, sorry, grandma and grandpa, then they feed them junk, I'll let them eat it, right? Mm-hmm. But what we eat, we try to give our kids healthy choices to eat and let them choose for themselves. So, we do a lot of, I call it green ice cream, but it's like green smoothies. I mix spinach, pineapple, and mango. And I call it green ice cream, but it's a green smoothie. They love that stuff. That's healthy. Yeah. They'll eat pickled green beans. When you look at us humans, we're not 100% herbivore. We're not 100% carnivore. We kind of meet there in the middle. We need our food broken down. So they'll eat like pickled spicy green beans.
We're omnivores.
Yeah, there you go. They'll eat sauerkraut. They'll eat the grass-fed meats, good free-range chickens and eggs. So, but we don't eat perfect in social settings. I'm not gonna say no, you can't eat it. That gives them the pushback. But there's so many healthy things out there.
They have that parasympathetic response when you try to get them to that fight or flight. Yeah. No, I'm not eating that salad, Dad. Sorry, chicken fingers and fries.
This could be your rebellion as long as it's not meth.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
So that just to give you the info on that gout thing, colchicine is an alkaloid used in the treatment of gout. It is taken from the seeds and bulbs of Colchicum autumnale and is widely used method for tetraploid production in watermelon. It basically inhibits spindle formation and prevents separation of chromosomes at anaphase. So basically, it makes the seeds not appear there. But that's the medicine.
Spindle formation for humans, those spindles give us our age, so that's kind of a scary thought. They're disrupting that. Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, they say that eating the actual seeds is good for you, and you should get seeded grapes even, those tiny little grape seeds, you need that.
Yeah.
It's more beneficial for you, so.
Yeah. So are there any supplements that you recommend to help build and support health rather than target like acute conditions? Mm-hmm. Just general, like vitamin D. I mean, I take every day. I'm just curious.
Okay. Well, a lot of people are, you can get a lot of your basic vitamins and minerals, a lot of the foods now. Some supplements I like a lot that we're deficient in is Lugol's iodine. our ancestors used to eat a lot more seaweed, and our bodies are now deficient in iodine, and iodine is very important. Iodine is one of the ingredients that helps you produce stomach acid to help digestion, but also your thyroid hormone is made up of something called tyrosine and 4 parts iodine. So Lugol's iodine is a water-based iodine. I'm a big fan of it. I use that. I also like humic and fulvic. A lot of our foods used to have humic and fulvic acid, and humic and fulvic acid help balance the minerals in your cells and also can help with some of the heavy metal excretion.
You can chop up a fish and get a good level of humic in your soil.
There you go.
I know, fish meal.
There
It's a
you
nice
go.
Soil amendment.
Yeah, and a lot of the soil is deficient in the humic and fulvic now because you used to get it from the chlorophyll from the leaves falling in the trees, but from all the insecticides, pesticides, it's deficient. So that's another one I like, humic and fulvic, Lugol's iodine. Honestly, basic salt. If you can get a good quality salt, my favorite's real salt from Redmond.
I use that. Yeah, I also like Colima. Have you heard of Colima?
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a natural aquifer in somewhere in the West, and I believe. And Colima is another good brand of sea salt. It's like a coarser, kind of chunkier sea salt. But the Redmond is refined. It's finer. But it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good, and it's straight. You're getting it. They get it from caves, non-toxic places, and then not third-party sourced. So there's a lot of Himalayan salts out there, and they third-party source it from mines, so you may not be getting the full product.
They can't even call it Himalayan salt anymore because it comes from Pakistan. In fact, Costco has recently changed their packaging, and they just have to call it pink salt.
Ah,
Is that right?
And there's high levels of toxins in all these salts, and I actually found the best salt, and it comes from a bay in Oregon where they actually go and they strain all this salt out of the ocean effectively.
Oh, they filter it out.
Clean it all out.
Nice.
I think I want to say it's Johnson's, but I don't
Johnson and Johnson?
No, no, just one Johnson. I forget the name, but I have a bag of it in my house, and it's like really big pieces of salt.
Yeah, I also like.
We had it on
Celtic.
that bacon and
Is that
date
right?
thing. Yeah.
Bacon wrap dates?
Yeah, we had that for the
those are
Super
good.
Bowl, and
we make those.
I was so dehydrated after that. We came back here, and like my whole family were like, "Man, I'm so thirsty." And it was like, oh, it must have been the salt, all the salt that was on those.
Yeah, it's good salt.
It was good stuff though. And then there's another one it's Celtic sea salt. It comes in like a blue bag, and it's got like I don't know. It's called Celtic sea salt. I think you can get it online pretty much anywhere, but also another good quality salt. A lot of those salts though don't have iodine in them though.
Yeah.
They're not iodized.
So here's the funny thing is you'll see a lot of packaged salts where that says this is iodized salt.
Mm-hmm.
It's the classic term. But what they do is they also add anti-caking agents to salt. And anti-caking agents have bromine. And when bromine is in the presence of iodine, it's more electronegative. It basically bullies out the
Counters
iodine.
it, yeah.
So the iodized salts out there, they don't actually have real active iodine. But my other favorite nutrient I have is digestive enzymes.
Yes.
After the age of 20, we start to lose stomach acid.
Yep.
And so, digestive enzymes are great.
What about just apple cider vinegar? I heard that really helps for
apple
your
cider
digestive
vinegar
enzymes.
or lemon juice, lime juice. Those will mimic stomach acid too.
Yeah, I take.
great.
Although Katy Perry just acquired Bragg's, so I think I'm off of Bragg's. Yeah. And so.
Well, actually, not just a couple of years ago. Actually,
Was it really that long ago?
Yeah, you've been drinking.
Man.
Katy Perry juice.
It's still. I'm so disappointed in myself.
Look at yourself.
I know. I don't know how I can function after that.
So
but
Katy Perry had this song a couple of years ago, "Birthday." You remember that one?
Yeah,
no, because I don't listen to her.
Okay, well, in that song, she said, "Time to bring out the big balloon," and I changed the lyric, "Time to bring out the big, big Chinese balloon." Maybe that's what she'll put on the brags.
China.
Apple cider vinegar. I also I'm a big fan of Thorne pharmaceuticals, and they have a great digestive enzyme product called Biogest, which is really good. And I've used that before to help reset my stomach acid content, my digestive, the digestion in my stomach, and I've had success with that. So that's a good. They have some really great products. But Anything else you want to share with us?
No, and well, last thing I'd say is, we talk a lot about all those things I've seen earlier, but the good news for health is that no matter what you're going through, health-wise, chronic, acute, I believe there's always hope. And so I'm grateful for the training, the resources I have, and my experiences in life that help me find the root causes for people. So if you're someone who's suffering from any chronic disease, pain, and you're trying to figure out why it's occurring, there's hope. You can always contact me with my website.
It is amazing how well the human body can recover when it's given the appropriate things.
Yeah, the right
Absolutely.
attention.
It's incredible, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just got to find the why and the how.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah.
We
Thanks
would
for
love to
having me.
have you back.
Absolutely.
We will definitely do this again. It's been amazing.
Definitely.
What a great conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Are you listening? Damn.
All right, dudes and dudettes, that's a wrap for this episode of Dudes Talking Freedom. Many thanks to Dr. Chase Faldmo for joining us. Please check out his website at healingplaybook.com. For DTF, this is Jeremy.
This is Luke.
We'll see you next time.